Did you ever feel like you won't be able to make it to the end of the year, to graduation, etc.? Hmm. Hello. It's been a while since I've seen you, or since you've seen me, and I'm finished with my first year at Minerva. Still can't believe it. I hope you've all had a wonderful summer with lots of rest and good food and sun. I spent my summer, well, the first month I was back home in Myanmar. It was super hot. And then for the next 3 months of summer, I was in San Francisco teaching at a summer school and taking road trips around California. So I had a pretty good balance of work and rest. And now I'm on the floor of my quarantine hotel here in Taipei. Second year has already started, but I feel like I won't actually start it until I get out of quarantine. So I figured this is the perfect time to reflect and share how the first year has been. I'm going to talk about the academics, career support, travel, health, and the community. I've also incorporated questions that I got from you through Instagram, so it's sandwiched somewhere in here. Without further ado, make yourself a cup of tea and let's get chatting. I definitely had my fair share of homesickness, especially in the first semester, because that was the first time I moved away from home and it was so far away in a completely different culture and environment. I often had the feeling of being lonely and just missing the comfort of home. But what really helped was staying busy, and that was pretty easy to do because there was a lot of things to do, like in the city, in terms of schoolwork, meeting friends, things like that. Also relying on the community, so the people I had at Minerva, as well as friends I had from back home. So keeping in touch and expressing our shared sadness and our shared longing to be with our family, because all of us were away from our family. Grades haven't really been occupying my brain much, like a little bit, tiny bit, because there is really no way to get a cohesive, like, okay, this is your GPA, this is like what you're worth as a student. That's not really a thing because we get graded on HCs, which are the separate subcategories. Every assignment we turn in, we don't get an overall like A, B, C, like those kind of grades don't exist. And so it makes it a lot more enjoyable to learn and like to try to experiment with things without the fear of it affecting the result of the whole assignment. And that way I feel like the grading system here at Minerva has really alleviated my attachment of my grades to my self-worth. So the first year, that really took me out of the mindset of like, if I get an A, that means I'm an A student. If I get a B, I'm a B student. Like it took me away from that mindset and helped me focus more on growing. In terms of career support, Minerva has a coaching and talent development team. In the first year, we had group sessions, like the groups were made of people who had similar interests. We also had one-on-one sessions with our coaches. So I found that super helpful. In the group sessions, we would do kind of practice exercises and practice answering questions that would tell us more about our values. And then during the one-on-one sessions, we were able to kind of go back and forth with our coach about what we're thinking so far, of like what we want to do, what our goals and dreams are, and getting insight and advice on how we can go about it. And the coaching and talent development team also has resources compiled of different internship ideas as well as opportunities. So those kind of support I felt quite happy with in my first year. It's not complicated, but it might take a lot of patience. It depends on our country of citizenship and also the country we're applying for. I didn't have like too many big issues, but here for Taipei this time, because of the whole COVID and special permit thing, there were some setbacks where I had to like reschedule and stuff, so it was just kind of annoying. But for the most part, it's not too complicated. Minerva gives clear instructions on how to go about it. I came in with the notion that I would be so caught up with work that I wouldn't have time to explore the city. But the bucket list I've made for both San Francisco and Seoul, I've crossed out pretty much everything that I wanted to do. So definitely have time. And so there's no need to like rush it or anything. As time went on, I realized how important it was for me to stay active, physically active, because that really affected the way that I felt stressed and how I managed everything else in my life. The first semester, I didn't sign up for a gym or anything. I mostly did home workouts in the dorm. But when I was in Seoul for the second semester, I signed up for a boxing gym. I really committed to that, and I was going, I think, at least 4 days a week 4 or 5 days a week, and even on days where I would finish my work at like 8 p.m. I would still take the train and go and commit to that. So I was really proud of myself that I was able to do that, and that really helped release all that stress. Minerva has a CAPS team, so I think it stands for Counseling and Psychological Service. I believe that's what it stands for. And I talked to the CAPS team a couple times, I think like 3 or 4 times in the first year, in moments where I felt like things were kind of building up, talking to a professional who could kind of listen and not offer me advice, but just ask me questions so that I can reflect and kind of figure it out. Without that, I feel like it would have been a lot more challenging to deal with alone, because I didn't want to burden my friends with always, sharing my problems and putting my worry on them. Like sometimes it's okay, but other times I think seeking professional help really was important during the first year. Notion is my best friend, not just for school. Notion helps me organize and plan and schedule everything in my life, and I really want to manifest working for Notion someday, sometime in the future, because I've never loved a product before. Like I don't get attached, but I'm very attached to my Notion page. Sleep, study, social life. I didn't always feel like it was balanced, to be honest. There would be periods of time where I would be sleeping well, and then I would go out one night, 2 nights, and it would turn into a couple more nights, and then I would have to catch up on sleep, and then academics, blah blah. Setting priorities was helpful for me. I always took the time to kind of set intentions for the new month at the end of each month, and that way I can kind of see like where I want to put more energy into. Don't stress about it too much if you don't feel like you have it all balanced all the time, because that is close to impossible unless you're like a freaking genius at planning. Just kind of like summarize it, I would say it's about setting priorities and putting in intention to like bring it back when you feel like it's kind of slipping away. It just feels like literally and metaphorically a warm hug, because Minervans give the best hugs. I don't think you can argue with me on this, and this is not biased whatsoever. People are very open to going out, exploring, and people love nature. That's also something that is a huge contrast from when I was back home, because I am someone who really enjoys going to parks and reading, and I didn't really have friends who I could do that with back home. But when I got to Minerva, I felt like everyone I was meeting loved doing that, like just going to a park, reading, or just sitting on the grass and just enjoying the sun, enjoying the nature. And so that really made me feel like I found my people. Like these people get me, they understand me. I met so many people from so many different countries in just like that first week at Minerva. I'll start with the con. It's not like a con, but personally it's hard to differentiate whether it's a cultural thing or it's their personality. So because there are people from so many different cultures that I have not been familiar with, when someone says something or looks at me a certain way or like does something, I'm like, are they doing this because like it's their cultural norm, or is it because that's who they are as a person? So I guess that would be a con. Like it's just harder to understand people, and so I had to put in more effort to communicate and to learn more. The pros, definitely just like super interesting stories and outlooks on life, and just a whole melting pot of different ideas and beliefs, norms, and seeing how like we all interact with each other and make it work. It's just beautiful. In the first semester I lived in the dorms, but in the second semester in Seoul I lived in independent housing. I lived quite far. I lived like about half an hour away. Pros of living outside independent housing is definitely clean kitchen. No need to share one kitchen with like 200 people, and also having the space and privacy. So it was really nice to have that quiet space all to myself. The main thing was just like making plans, because when I was in the dorms in San Francisco, I would bump into someone in the elevator, and then we would make plans. We were in the kitchen, we would like talk and hang out. And in Korea I had to make more effort if I wanted to spend time with people. And to be very honest, I felt a bit more distant. I felt like there was a whole ecosystem and like another world happening. It's not like people were not welcoming or anything. Like whenever I would visit, everyone would be super friendly. I still felt like an outsider, you know? I'm really excited that for this semester in Taipei I'm gonna be living in the res again. I don't think I ever had that big of a doubt of not being able to make it, like as in failing the whole year or failing the whole program. But I do remember one night, it was like 2 a.m. I was up trying to finish an assignment, I was sitting outside in the hallway. My roommates were already asleep and there were a bunch of people in the next room. It sounded like they were having a good time, and I remember just sitting with my laptop trying to focus, like putting my earphones in, but then my head felt like it was burning and I was so stressed because I had already used 3 extensions on that assignment and I had somewhere to go the next day that I couldn't cancel. I had to finish that assignment before I woke up, which I wasn't gonna sleep because I wasn't finishing it fast enough. I didn't feel like giving up, but that was pretty close to it, where I felt so stressed and that I felt like I couldn't do it, but I was able to push through it, and I think I finished it around like 4 or 5 a.m. and I didn't sleep. It was all good, and yeah, it was more about me not planning well enough in advance and then having to kind of cram it at the end. Anyways, this concludes the video. I hope you've enjoyed this and I hope you found it helpful or insightful, and let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below. I hope you have a great day or a great night whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you soon. Bye! Is that a rocket?